Have you ever felt like each step you take is a struggle, as though pain in your knees, ankles, or back turns even the simplest activity into a mountain you have to climb? Have you ever asked yourself if there might be a way to ease that constant discomfort without depending on endless pills or creams that promise miracles but rarely deliver? At 85 years old, I've lived that reality. When even walking to buy a loaf of bread or climbing a single stair felt like an exhausting trial. Then, quite unexpectedly, I stumbled upon something different. It wasn't a new pill or cream, but a simple, natural solution that transformed the way I move, live, and feel. Today, I want to share my story of how just 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed mustard oil, combined with a few small but intentional changes, gave me back a part of life I thought was gone for good. I encourage you to stay with me until the end, because this isn't only about oil, it's about the possibility of regaining movement, freedom, and dignity, no matter how old you are, with something so simple it might surprise you. Before I begin, I'd be grateful if you could support me by liking this video so I can continue sharing lessons from old age. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and switch on the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Also, let me know how you feel about this. If you like this video, comment the number 1, and if you don't, comment the number 0 so I can work on improving for you. Now, let's begin. I am 85 years old, and for many years walking was not just painful, but almost unbearable. I didn't often talk about it, not because I was trying to be tough, but because at this stage of life you almost expect aches and pains as part of daily existence. Some days my ankles swelled and stiffened. On other days, my knees ached with every bend. And on the worst days, it felt like my whole body rebelled at once, as if it had forgotten how to move without complaint. Even ordinary tasks became monumental. Walking to the corner store was like fighting a battle against my own limbs. The soles of my feet felt like they were on fire. My knees cracked and creaked like old wood, and climbing a single step required me to pause, breathe deeply, and plan carefully so I wouldn't collapse under the strain. I tried everything I could think of: pills, creams, exercise routines. Some brought short-lived relief, a temporary distraction, but none lasted. Others left me frustrated, questioning whether my body had simply reached its limit. Pain stuck to me like a shadow that refused to let go. Slowly, I withdrew. Leaving the house no longer felt like freedom, but a burden. The world outside seemed overwhelming, demanding too much from a body that resisted every movement. And then, one ordinary day, something different came my way. It wasn't a doctor's appointment, a new prescription, or even therapy. It came from a casual conversation, something most people might dismiss as an old myth. It was about a type of cooking oil, not the ones I had used all my life for frying or salads, but something unfamiliar, with a reputation for more than flavoring food. At first, I laughed it off. Just another old wives' tale, I thought. I had tried enough remedies that promised relief and delivered disappointment. Still, curiosity, and perhaps desperation, nudged me to try. I began taking just 1 teaspoon each morning, not expecting much beyond an odd taste on my tongue. At first, nothing seemed to change. But over the days and weeks, I noticed something unusual. The pain that had been my constant shadow began to lessen, not suddenly, but slowly, the way fog lifts as morning light grows. My steps became lighter, my knees less argumentative. One morning, without realizing it, I walked 3 full blocks, without stopping, without gasping, without feeling like I would collapse. 3 blocks after months of struggling just across my living room. For the first time in a long while, I moved without dread. This is not a tale of magic potions or miracle cures. Pain has not vanished from my life. But what I found gave me something more precious, the ability to reclaim pieces of myself that pain had stolen. That is why I want to share not only what I discovered, but how I use it, why I believe it works, and why so few people seem to talk about it. If you or someone you love struggles with the kind of pain that makes every step feel like a burden, maybe my story will bring you hope. Before I go further, I'd like to know, how old are you, and where are you listening from? Pain doesn't always roar loudly. Sometimes it whispers quietly in everyday moments. A grimace when you rise from bed. A sigh as you reach for a glass on a high shelf. A pause before climbing a stair, as though your body needs convincing to keep going. For me, it began with stiffness in the mornings. At 85, I brushed it off, thinking it was normal, but gradually, stiffness turned into persistent pain. Mornings became slow rituals of cautious movements. My legs felt heavy, unfamiliar, uncooperative. At first, pain showed up only after long days, but eventually it greeted me every morning, as soon as I opened my eyes. Slowly, I lost my independence. Visiting the market, chatting at the town square, or even fetching a glass of water, all became sacrifices to pain. I sought medical help. Doctors prescribed the usual: anti-inflammatories, supplements, therapy. One doctor said gently, "This is normal at your age. Try to stay active." His words stung deeply. Was this agony really just normal? How could I move more when moving itself was punishment? For a while, I accepted that this was my new reality. But deep inside, I wasn't ready to give up. When pain dominates your life, you will try anything. I did. Pills dulled the ache briefly, but punished my stomach with nausea and acidity, forcing me to take yet another pill for side effects. Creams promised comfort, but gave only fleeting sensations. Exercise helped sometimes, but often even walking the chair was too much. Resistance bands, yoga videos, and even a stationary bike gathered dust while my frustration grew. Each failure chipped away at my savings and my hope. I'll never forget the morning when even putting on socks broke me down. A sharp pain seized my back, and I sat frozen, staring at my bare feet. Tears came, not from pain, but from helplessness. Then, unexpectedly, an answer came through my nephew Peter, a physiotherapist who believed in natural remedies. He noticed my slow, painful movements and returned one day with a small dark bottle. Inside was thick golden liquid with an earthy aroma, cold-pressed mustard oil. He told me he had learned of it in India, where even people in their 90s use it to stay strong and mobile. I was skeptical, but desperate. He said, "Just a teaspoon a day on an empty stomach. Try for a week." So I did. The taste was strong, bitter, spicy, lingering in my throat. The first days, nothing. But then, small changes appeared. My ankles less swollen, my feet less heavy, walking to the mailbox without wincing. By the end of the week, I noticed undeniable differences. With time, I realized I was walking longer, standing taller, sleeping better. The pain was not gone, but it no longer defined me. This oil isn't a cure-all, and I'm not here to tell you to race his age. But it gave me something priceless: the ability to move with less fear, to regain a bit of independence. Science may call it anti-inflammatory properties. Maybe it's something more. I don't know. What I know is that it changed my life. If you are struggling, maybe my story will resonate with you. Sometimes answers come not from miracle pills, but from humble remedies hidden in plain sight. So tell me, what's your story? How old are you? And where are you listening from? Here's your rewritten version in other words, keeping all the information intact, but reshaping the flow and phrasing so nothing is lost or shortened. I finally made it to her door, breathing a little harder than usual, but feeling victorious. When she opened it, her eyes widened with surprise. "You climbed all by yourself?" she asked, her voice carrying both disbelief and admiration. I just smiled. How could I explain it without sounding ridiculous? A single teaspoon of oil each day, that was all it took. Could something so simple really make such a difference? By the fourth week, the changes weren't just noticeable to me. They became visible to others. One afternoon, while I was in the town square, enjoying a short walk to buy fresh bread and feel the sun on my face, my neighbor Mrs. Carroll caught sight of me. "Mr. Tony, you look different," she said, narrowing her eyes as if trying to solve a puzzle. "Even your face looks changed. What are you doing?" Her words stuck with me, not because I cared about looks, but because she was right. I wasn't just moving better. I was feeling better, lighter, freer, as though a heavy weight had been lifted off both my body and my spirit. Suddenly, I wanted to do small, everyday things again. Sweeping the yard, strolling to the store, sitting in the garden with a warm cup of tea. They were simple tasks, but they made me feel useful again, capable, alive. And most of all, I felt something I thought I'd lost: confidence. For the first time in years, I began to believe I could move without fear, that every step didn't have to feel like a battle. I started trusting my body again. But what was this oil that had changed so much? And why wasn't it on every pharmacy shelf, in every doctor's office? It was time to share my discovery. The bottle that transformed my daily life wasn't some shiny modern miracle cure. It was cold-pressed mustard oil, a remedy as ancient as time itself. For centuries, people in India, Bangladesh, and parts of the Middle East had sworn by it. And let me be clear, this wasn't the bright yellow mustard you squeeze onto a hot dog. This was a thick, dark, unrefined oil pressed directly from mustard seeds, with a sharp, pungent smell strong enough to fill a room. My nephew first introduced it to me after hearing his wife's grandmother praise it. She claimed it relieved her joint pain and helped her stay active well into her 90s. I had laughed it off at first, but now I was a believer. Curious, I want to know more. I asked my nephew everything he'd learned, and I spent hours reading online and flipping through books. What I found was fascinating. Cold-pressed mustard oil wasn't some new fad. It was a pillar of traditional medicine. Its strength came from natural compounds like erucic acid and isothiocyanates, both known for powerful anti-inflammatory effects that calm swollen joints and sore muscles from the inside out. It was also rich in omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin E, nutrients essential for bone health, tissue repair, and mobility. On top of that, the oil helped stimulate blood circulation, easing swelling, numbness, and a heavy, dragging feeling in the legs and feet that I'd lived with for so long. But here's the thing. Its benefits weren't only from swallowing a teaspoon. In many Asian villages, elders had a long-standing ritual, gently warming mustard oil and massaging it into their knees, ankles, or lower backs before bedtime. The warmth and stimulation worked together to melt away stiffness. So by morning, the joints felt looser and stronger. I decided to try it myself. One evening, I rubbed a small amount into my knees. The warmth was comforting, and by the next day, my legs felt easier to move, as if the oil had seeped deep into the tissues. And so I asked myself again, why isn't this well known? Why don't doctors prescribe it? The answer, I think, is its simplicity. Here in the West, we've been trained to believe that real solutions come in fancy packages, with complicated instructions and big price tags. Natural remedies like mustard oil don't have powerful pharmaceutical companies backing them. No glossy commercials, no million-dollar marketing campaigns. They're too simple, too cheap, too unprofitable. That's why, in many cultures, this knowledge has remained hidden in plain sight, passed quietly through generations while modern medicine turns toward synthetic drugs and quick fixes. Yet for centuries, people have used mustard oil not because of slick advertisements, but because it works. Now, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not here to preach miracles, but I can't ignore what my own body has shown me. Digging deeper, I came across studies confirming what tradition already knew. In 2016, the Journal of Ethnopharmacology published research showing that mustard oil's isothiocyanates could ease chronic pain almost as effectively as certain NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Another study in the Indian Journal of Medical Research highlighted its use as a traditional treatment for joint and muscle discomfort, especially among older adults. And beyond science, there's the undeniable proof of history. Generations of people across towns, villages, and cities rely on this oil as part of their daily lives. If you're still with me and finding this story useful, please type the number 3 in the comments below. That way, I know you're still here with me. Thank you for your time. Now, let me be clear, mustard oil isn't a cure-all. It won't erase pain completely. Some days my joints still ache, especially when the weather turns cold or when I overdo things. But the difference is undeniable. I can move more freely, sleep with fewer interruptions, and live with a new sense of hope. More than anything, I regained trust in my body, and that to me is priceless. A teaspoon of mustard oil, such a tiny seed, but with such a powerful legacy. It has reshaped how I walk, how I live, and even how I hope in my small community. People don't get caught up in whether something is proven by glossy ads. They simply try it, and if it helps, they keep it. That's a kind of wisdom in itself. Simple, practical, and passed down like a family recipe. That's how I came to see mustard oil. Not as magic, but as a humble, time-tested ally. Weeks after I began, I share my story at the senior community center where I spend my afternoons. My friends listened politely, but I could see the skepticism in their eyes. But everything changed when one of them tried it. Martha, my neighbor, was the first. Her hands had become stiff, especially in cold mornings. Once, they were nimble enough to knit beautiful scarves for her grandchildren, but now the pain made her drop her needles in frustration. I gave her a small bottle of mustard oil and explained the process. Take a teaspoon in the morning, and at night, warm the oil, rub it into the joints, then wrap the hands with a hot towel. A week later, Martha found me, her eyes filled with tears. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "I didn't think I'd ever knit again." The pain hadn't vanished completely, but for the first time in months, she could make a scarf without her fingers locking. Soon after, Gregory, another friend, decided to try. He had struggled with hip pain that made walking to church difficult. "I'm not trying to feel 20 again," he told me with a laugh. "I just want to make it to church without worrying about falling." After a few weeks, he told me he felt steadier, more confident. The pain wasn't gone, but it eased enough to give him back something priceless: trust in his body. And that's the real gift. For people our age, that trust is worth more than gold. Unlike medications, which often bring side effects like stomach upset, dizziness, or dangerous interactions, mustard oil is gentle. It isn't a drug. It's food, filled with natural compounds the body recognizes. It doesn't attack the system. It works in harmony with it. That's why I tell people it's not miraculous. It's not about erasing pain instantly, but about softening it, making it manageable, helping the body heal in its own time. Today, mustard oil is a natural part of my daily routine, as important as my morning cup of tea. I don't follow complex rituals, just simple consistency. Every morning before breakfast, I take 1 teaspoon with a glass of warm water. I won't lie, the taste is strong, pungent, earthy with a bite of spice. At first, I grimace, but once the benefits began, the taste hardly mattered. On days when my knees or back ache more than usual, I use it externally too. I warm it in my palms, massage it into the sore spots, and sometimes wrap a hot towel over the area. The relief isn't instant, but the soothing warmth feels like a gift. Of course, not all mustard oil is the same. You need cold-pressed, unrefined oil. Many supermarket versions are refined or mixed with other cheap oils. Read labels carefully, and always check with your doctor first, especially if you're on medication. When I told my doctor, Dr. Carmel J. Johnson, he smiled and said, "As long as you're moving and it's not hurting you, I don't see why not." Then he added something that stayed with me. Sometimes the body knows things science hasn't caught up to yet. And that's how I see it. Not a replacement for medical care, but a companion to it. Now, let me say what mustard oil is not. It's not a miracle bullet. It won't reverse chronic disease or erase decades of wear overnight. But with patience and consistency, it can reduce inflammation, improve mobility, and return dignity to daily life. For me, it meant being able to get out of bed without gripping the railings so tightly, to climb stairs with less fear, to enjoy walks again. These small victories may sound ordinary, but at my age, they feel extraordinary. And the truth is, it wasn't just the oil. Mustard oil sparked a bigger shift. I began moving more, doing gentle stretches each morning. I started sleeping better by turning off the TV at night, and sometimes massaging myself with the oil before bed. I paid more attention to my food, cutting down on fried and sugary snacks, and adding more fresh vegetables. These weren't dramatic changes, but together they transformed my body and spirit. In the end, mustard oil isn't a hero. It's a partner, a humble ally. It works best when paired with patience, self-respect, and small, consistent acts of care. At 83, I've learned something important. It's never too late. Even after years of pain, improvement is still possible. Solutions don't always come in expensive bottles or complicated treatments. Sometimes they're found in something as simple as a natural oil, a stretch, a good meal, or a night of true rest. Mustard oil didn't make me young again. But it gave me something better, less pain, more confidence, and the ability to enjoy life's little moments again. And so, I want to say this. If you're struggling, if you feel weighed down by pain, you don't have to accept it as your final reality. Start small. Be patient. Be kind to yourself. And believe that better days are still possible, even now. For me, that's the greatest gift. At 85, discovering that life can still feel lighter. Thank you for walking this journey with me. My story isn't only about mustard oil. It's about hope, dignity, and rediscovering the simple joys of living.